This episode contains strong language. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 5. Where has the time gone? They've even let us make one more than episode 4. So here we are sailing on the winds of fortune. It is the 22 Dropouts. We are a YouTube show and a podcast available from Acast, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. Do join us online. Do make sure that you watch the show. If you're doing the gardening or a bit of DIY, you need to block out the background noise. Make sure you catch up with all our episodes, download them now throughout the lockdown. Joining me on my 22 tonight, we've got, why is he always in the top? He's always in my top left corner. It's Sam from Malta. Hey, bud, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing? You all right, guys? Keeping well?
Yeah, man. Yeah, good. You're looking good tonight. You're looking a little bit sort of square-jawed around the whiskers now.
Yeah. You know, it's starting to take shape, isn't it? Either that or just gravity, kind of, you know.
No. I just said it was square-jawed. I didn't say he was looking in good shape, mate. Okay,
just everybody say hello. Just everybody say hello to my daughter now. She just handed me a Jaffa cake.
Oh, I'm not going there, mate. There's far too many jokes about Jaffa cakes going on. But yeah, I'll tell you when you're old enough, Chris. Don't worry about it. Yeah, when you reach puberty, I'll explain it to you.
With this beard, I'll never fucking reach puberty.
No, with that puberty, he's done it again, hasn't he? I've now got to record a viewer discretion warning because we're less than 90 seconds into the podcast, and Christopher has used the F-bomb. Anyway, so let's go back to Malta. Sam, how's your weekend been, mate?
Interesting. Friday was a public holiday because it was May Day here in Malta, so trying not to behave myself.
Mate, come on, boys, tell me, what's the point of a bank holiday during the bloody lockdown?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking that, to be fair.
Where's your brew from tonight, or your wine?
Well, actually, it's not wine tonight. My daughter decided that she'd pour too much in a glass, and she gave me half a glass, and it's a bottle of Captain Morgan's Spice Rum.
Ooh.
Oh, very nice. Enjoy, man. Enjoy.
Yes.
So now we've gone from rum to ale. We're going to go to water and the Jaffa cake. Yeah, man. Are you going to sit there and eat Jaffa cake all night? Are you really going to depress me? I'll get my rugby stash of Jaffa cakes out. The bag is out of the car and it's just down by my feet.
Yeah, but they're
the jelly babies and the cream eggs and everything else.
To be fair though, Mike, most of us can actually burn it off, so it's okay.
Just you wait. I seem to remember, Mr. Young Man, that somebody was offered the game on the Sunday, but was too tired to run on the Sunday, and I had to do your game for you. But moving on, over to Kenya. Lawrence, how are you doing, man?
Throws a bomb and doesn't let the bomb go off, cheeky.
Ignore him over in Malta. You just carry on. Can somebody just pedal harder on the bike so that Lawrence can get some more internet speed?
There's the original joke.
Still going.
Every week. How are you doing, buddy? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing good, and I hope you're all keeping safe.
I don't think we've got much choice, to be fair. Which version of water are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, tonight I've actually changed from the place where I get it from. So I've got this water bottle here and still water.
So basically, you've got the same drink, just in a different receptacle, haven't you?
Yeah, why do you use big words like receptacle? It's a bottle. Get over yourself.
It's making it sound
mate, it's only a bottle to you because you don't know how to spell receptacle.
I mean,
no. I mean nothing. You've been done. End of. Give over.
I was agreeing with you.
So, Lawrence,
I think he's a bit tosh.
Sam?
Receptacle.
Sam? Is there somebody in the background you keep talking to and pointing to?
No, that's me doing this. That you're a tosh. Snob. Receptacle.
Oh.
A receptacle.
Receptacle, yes, quite, yes.
We can't call it a flask or a water bottle or container. It's a receptacle.
Of course it is. Of course it is. We can go to Kent. It's Tom.
Hello, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. And no cider tonight.
No cider tonight. I've been on a local trip down to the local brewery in Chiddingstone, and I've got myself an 8-pint keg of good old Larkin's traditional. Larkin, they also gave me a nice glass as well. Can't really see it because it's on there lightly.
Oh, mate, it's got one of those lips again, hasn't it? Just show us how Nightingale uses that lip.
Mercy my pint, and I fall asleep, and it nestles gently in my hand there. Exactly.
I honestly think that it's. Look, I'm doing Nick Tom a bit of a disservice, taking the mickey out of the fact that he might go to sleep with his beer and it's to stop it falling down. See episode 3. I actually think it's because while he's rocking on his dad's boat, he doesn't want it to slip out of his hand.
Yeah, you found me out, Mike.
So, Tom, when are you going to give us the grand tour of the poop deck?
There's not much to show, unfortunately. It's he hasn't had his bonus this year, so.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And we might have to edit this bit out. I didn't realise civil servants have bonuses. Isn't that called a bribe, Tom?
Yeah, I wish.
Speaking of house.
So tell us about this brew then, mate.
Yeah, Larkin's Brewery generally, a real good supporter of local rugby, support my local rugby club for many years. I know the guy. So, yeah, he's a very good guy. And I say, pick up an 8-pint keg. I mean, I picked this up end of last week and it's pretty much empty. So, making another trip hopefully this week. But, yeah, thank you to the guys at Larkin's.
And I'm sure that you're all abiding by social distancing at the brewery as well.
Of course.
Of course.
Drinking and socially distancing responsibly.
Now, Christopher has gone one step further this week with his social distancing and beer, and he has dialed that wonderful emergency number that starts in 01785, and he called Limestone Brewery for their emergency beer pack. Tell us all about it, Chris.
Well, insert VT here. Who's the one dropping F-bombs now, eh? Jesus.
Yeah, but I'm the one that's got the edit button. There's a reason I do post-production, is I can edit out all my swear words and keep all yours in and make you look like a bad boy. Has your mummy come in, Chris? Is your mummy shouting through the door?
It's my sister.
Bring your sister in.
Please shut up, I'm recording.
No, bring her in. We want to talk to her.
You want Amy to come in?
No,
yeah, we do.
No.
Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Well, you can
Sibling love. Look at this.
You can tell which one's actually the better looking one. Why are you pulling down on it? It's like you're trying to make it bigger. Like he's doing this. I'm going to make it bigger.
Do you know what? We're 15 minutes in and we've done fuck all yet. We're now joined by Chris's sister, Amy. Amy, we've got one question for you, and I know you're going to be honest with us. What do you think of your brother's beard?
I hate it.
Is it any good? Do you actually think it's a real beard, or has he just stuck some of his bum fluff on there?
No, it is real, but I just like. Have you seen the little fake chin strap?
Can you just do us a quick favour and try and just double check that it is real? It's not like Santa Claus.
Yeah, I'm pulling on it. It's real.
You can leave now.
Do you know what though? Do you know what? I really think that Amy. We've got Tom is called Yorkie. I think Christopher is now going to be known as Chinstrap.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for joining us, Amy. If you've got something better to do,
can I have applause as I leave? Can you all clap for me as I leave?
No.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Sam can't clap. Do that again, Sam. Anyway, Chris, we're half an hour in. And we still haven't got to your emergency box. Now, we've got a video of you opening your box, which we'll show in a second. But tell us Tell us where it's from and what's in it.
So it's from all the way in Stone, Staffordshire. Tonight I'm on the blonde ale, which is Einstein, lovely little 5% number, in our lovely half-pint glass with the Limestone Brewery logo there. You can sort of see it, and it is very nice. I caned the 2 pale ales and the other Einstein on Saturday, so I'm just finishing this one off, and I'll be on one of the Ruby beers later.
Tell us what you get in this box then, bud.
Well, I've done a video actually, Michael, of me unboxing it. So just to catch you up on the survival box from Limestone Brewery, here is the contents. So they have included 2 little quizzes just to keep us occupied. We've got a word search and spot the difference. Love that. Inside there are 2 bags of locally sourced crisps. We have got 2 of their fine beer mats. There we go, from Limestone Brewery. Thank you very much. Lovely inside. There's 2 half-pint glasses from Limestone. There we go. Lovely little glass there. And inside there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bottles of beer. You cannot complain. So first one we've got is the Stone-Faced chewy toffee flavours from English roast malts complement bitter pine and citrus notes. Very nice. That's that one. Ooh, yes. Stone the Crows, 5.4%. This rich dark beer is carefully crafted from the finest crystal and chocolate malts. It is a fantastic beer. This is one of their pale ales, 5%. Very nice. You'll have to give that a try. Got Foundation Stone. This glorious golden pale ale is carefully crafted from the finest pale and crystal malts of 25 quid, and free delivery if you're within 10 miles of Stone. Is an absolute steal in my eyes. Absolute world class.
And I've gone for the Titanic beer from Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm on the superb plum porter. If you like, not heavy beers, but fruity beers, this is definitely one, and so's the one from Limestone. And if you want to support somebody who was a good stalwart of rugby, then the guy who owns Limestone Brewery is an ex-player and chairman of his local club for many, many years. So that's the Limestone Brewery. And what's the web address for their shop, Chris?
It is limestonebrewery.net. Not .co.uk, not .com, .net.
Good lad. So, is it just me, or does every day feel like a Sunday?
I think it's going to be bad on the, on the bold kidneys and all the rest, and the liver, innit? Because, well, really, if it's Sunday, that means I'm drinking a bottle of wine nearly every day then.
But there's no urgency at all. Every day you get up and you go, right, am I working today? Am I doing this today? What am I doing today? And every day feels like Sunday. How are you guys getting on with it? How are you getting past that? Because it's doing my head in.
Well, first thing I'd say, Mike, is that my Sundays are usually filled with rugby, so a Sunday is not a quiet day for me. But it's a quiet day during the week when I haven't got uni. But yeah,
even when you go out on the roads, you go out on the roads, although I'll be honest with you, this last week, the roads around here are really getting more and more and more busy. I don't know what it's like where you are, but it feels like people are now bored of lockdown and they're finding reasons to go out. Is that the same way you guys are?
Yeah, it's the same by me. I live like practically on the A34, and if I go for a run or anything, the amount
of
cars...
nobody knows where that is.
No, well... It's a busy road.
Nobody in Florida or Kenya or Nairobi or New Zealand know where the A34 is.
Anywho, whenever I'm going on my runs and stuff, like I'm seeing a lot more cars now compared to when lockdown first started.
Lawrence, I don't suppose it's the same over in Kenya, because if you get caught breaking curfew, they're going to beat you with a big stick or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
Not really per se, but things are returning back to normal here in Kenya, although there are minimum activities now from 7 p.m. onward.
Does that mean you can get beer from an off-license?
Actually, in the county where I'm residing, all the bars are closed. Actually, they're not allowed, because if you're caught actually like breaching what the government regulations, then your license can be get off from you.
Sam, what are you doing?
Taking the piss out of me, that's what he's doing.
There you go, Sam. Can you just lift your chin up, Sam? Sam, lift your chin up and let's see if you've got a bald patch just there.
Full of hair. Full of hair.
Chris, what about yours?
Fuck off.
Go on, you want to do it,
he's done
you
it
want to
again.
do it for the millions and the millions. Do it for the millions and the millions.
Chris's beard is a...
That
Hashtag.
doesn't make any sense.
Does that make him a dickhead?
Right, Tom,
I'll give you that, mate. I'll give you that.
1 minute liner.
He turns up late and he comes in with that one-liner. Fair play, Tom. High five to you, mate.
Greens in at the end with that one liner. Anyway, Lawrence, what were you saying, bud? Because I just totally interrupted you. Sorry, bud.
I was actually saying most of the counties now, the major or rather cities in the country are on a partial lockdown, where some business Yoki.
Mate, I think he's just rinsed you halfway through his conversation. I think Lawrence has just found his feet.
Did Lawrence just actually say a joke?
What happened was Lawrence said it last week, but it's only just arrived.
Poor bugger.
Anyway, it's almost time now for our guest tonight, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with you right after this.
And remember, please take everything we say with a pinch of salt. Don't take it too seriously. And if you do, put your head between your ass and kiss it goodbye.
Because you're a...
Baycock.
We'll see you in a couple of minutes. When the shelves are almost empty and you can't stop thinking about that blend of hops and barley, carefully crafted and slowly nurtured for a distinctive flavour, reach for your Limestone Brewery Survival Kit with 10 bottled beers, locally sourced crisps, beer mats and glasses. Buy yours now at limestonebrewery.net. That's limestone with a Y. Welcome back to the 22 Dropouts YouTube show and the podcast. My name's Mike. I'm one of the 22 tonight. We've got joining us all the way from Malta, Sam. We've got Chinstrap over in the Midlands. Lawrence, thank you, Chinstrap. We've got Lawrence over in Kenya. Tom on his daddy's boat on the Medway somewhere. And now joining us live from British Columbia. Apparently this is on the west coast of Canada, so he says. It's the only full-time MLR referee, the referee development manager for British Columbia in Canada. It's Chris Asmus. Chris, how are you doing, mate?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, anytime, mate, anytime. Now, obviously, it's a little bit early in the morning there, so we won't ask you what beer you're drinking. What type of coffee have you got this morning?
I've got my Lavazza espresso made with my fantastic $150 Cuisinart espresso machine.
So just remind me, hang on, where's my phone? 150 Canadians, about £12.50 over here.
Yeah, it's about 12 and change, yeah.
and a couple of pence, yeah. Well, Chris, here's to you with your espresso and my beer, and it's a pleasure to have you on board, mate.
Can I just say, I think it's sacrilegious that 2 weeks in a row we've had guests with proper beard.
Listen, Chinstrap.
Bum fluff.
Chinstrap. We were being nice. As a collective, we all went on Messenger this morning and we said there's no more taking the piss out of Chinstrap's Chinstrap because it's not cricket. But I'm just going to do a quick scroll now. We've got over. I had a shave this morning, otherwise my 2 days' growth would be better than yours. In Malta, we're going to have a look at Sam's beard. Sam, show your beard off. Thank you very much. Don't milk it. In Canada, we're going to see Chris's beard. Look at that. He's got more on his hair on. Look, there's more beard in his quiff than there is anywhere else. Lawrence has got more beard and he's never shaved in his life.
That's true.
And Tom's got more beard in his dimples than you have. So, Chinstrap, we are now officially, as the 22, we are giving you permission to shave tomorrow.
No. No.
Yeah.
No.
Chin strap remains, though. The name chin strap remains to remind
I don't
you
care.
of the
I don't
horrors.
care. I just want it gone. I just want rid of it at this point.
If he shaves off, we're gonna see double chin now.
Oh, Dan's going to make a return.
Chris, did you ever struggle growing the beard in Canada like Chris does in Stoke?
Yeah, usually I would try to get it in and thinking, oh, this Saturday is going to be the week. I'm gonna rock up with the beard, but usually I get advice from my better half about half 7 on Friday evening to shave it off. So it never got a chance to grow it in. But this lockdown has given me that opportunity. So yeah, it's I think what are we 8 weeks and counting.
Lockdown's the perfect excuse for everything. I don't have to paint the lounge because I've got so many jobs that she's given me in the garden. I can keep putting those off. It's given me an excuse to go running down the towpath of the canal because I've got nothing else to do either. Apart from the hours of work I have to do every bloody day, 7 days a week.
Oh, these must be dire circumstances then,
I was
Mike.
going late. You never go for a run.
He's never went for a run in his life, honestly.
Chris, chin strap, that's simply because I am quick enough and fast enough and fit enough for game rugby rather than just running up and down in a straight line.
And then we're called to me screen.
Can I remind you that every time we worked on the line together, I would still beat you back to the 22.
Bullshit. Again. Sorry.
I call on Newark Rugby Club to testify whether I beat Christopher or not, because that was the most interesting part of that game.
They were more concerned about our race to the sideline than they were the actual rugby. It was quite embarrassing.
So, Chris, we've talked about drinking. We've ripped the Mickey out of Chinstrap's beard. The fact that Tom lives on a boat. Lawrence can't get a beer, otherwise some policemen come and beat him with a big stick. And Sam is turned into a vampire tonight, wearing black and purple with a light behind him. What are you lot doing this for?
You can't say that.
So, it gets worse every time. Every time
worse
it gets
every
worse.
week. With that in mind, Chris, what foul deeds might the Mounties get up to if you break your curfew or lockdown?
We're actually quite fortunate. We never went into full lockdown, so we've just been implementing social distancing, so that 2-meter rule. Most people are pretty respectful of it, and yeah, we're fortunate to be about 200 meters from Stanley Park, so we walk around, and they've actually shut the park off to vehicle traffic, so people can spread out a little bit. There are some police with horses, though.
Well, it's Canada. They're supposed to be on horses, aren't they? Seriously, mate. We were talking earlier on. Every day sort of feels like it's like Groundhog Day at the moment. Every day either feels like a Sunday or a Monday or whatever. How are you guys, you and Shandy, getting through this and actually putting some variety in your everyday life? Yeah,
we're quite competitive people, so every day is a new contest, so to speak. So Mondays we have an arm wrestling competition, and I barely squeak it out over Shanda. And for those who don't know Shanda, she's
4'2".
Soaking wet. Yeah, no, we find little things to do. It's I run a fair bit of webinars and make some video content and stuff for people to keep sharp with rugby and refereeing. But yeah, we eat pizza on Fridays, and last night we just finished watching.
Sam! Sam!
That was the most popular feature of your show.
Every week, Sam, she's in the show.
Normally you just hear the sound rustling in the background and Sam looking at her. This week we've actually seen her.
Sam!
Yeah, hashtag Lawrence, go for it.
You're a cock. Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. So, this interview is not going the way I wanted it to, but it's going better, so that's okay. We were going to talk about rugby, but nobody cares anymore. I mean, rugby is a thing of the past, as you said earlier. Just turn around for me, will you? Grab one of those things with the stringies on the wall.
It's called a guitar.
I don't know. If you don't blow it, I don't know what it is.
Hang
And I'm
about.
not
Whoa.
being rude.
Whoa,
Whoa.
hang on. Whoa, whoa.
Got Yorkie excited now, Michael.
So, Chris, the floor is yours. Bang us out of tune.
I put me on the spot a little bit, but
Play Wonderwall.
Hey up, he's
Play
bottled
Wonderwall.
it. He's bottled it already. Where's he gone? Oh no, he's a pro. He's a pro.
I heard there's a fan of Wonderwall. If you are a young man when lockdown is over and there's one song you want to learn in order to increase your courting abilities, I would highly recommend this one.
Christopher, take note.
Chin strap, you're single and a virgin.
I'm not a virgin. Can we just say I'm not a virgin? Can we just clear this up?
Come on then, Chris. Go for it, buddy.
One, two, three, four. Today's gonna be the day when they're gonna throw it back to you.
Don't know, should somehow realize what you gotta do. I don't
You do realise that everybody in Europe
is the way I do. Not you now.
Right,
Great
right,
echo
okay,
going on.
listen, okay, let's cut that. Everybody in Europe is about 4.5 seconds ahead of Canada. So, Chris, the stage is yours. I'll edit in the crap from Europe later, but we want to hear your dulcet tones for the next 30 seconds on your own. It's okay, Lawrence is still waiting for you to start the first time round.
I'm sure you heard it all before, but you never really had it down. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads that lead us there are winding, and all the lights that got the way of blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. Said maybe you gotta be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
that's like that's top tier like British lad
Oh.
culture right there. Like Mancunian lads who think they're edgy. Like,
Hey, chin strap.
Tier 1 or tier 2.
Chin strap, with all this,
Now
with all you going like this, now I know why you're single.
way
I tell
there it
you
is.
what, one of the best nights I've had in a long, long time was that night, mate. The guy from the security, I think, came and chapped on your door. Shanda was already in bed, like for an hour, and the door get knocked. We're all singing in China and all the rest of it. He's going crazy on the guitar, and the guy comes chapping, and everybody goes silent, and then all you hear is Shanda and a little voice going, "That ain't me, guys." They're all like, "Wait, switch the lights off, everybody."
And we thought she was taking the Mickey a little bit, knocking on the door to make it sound like someone was out front,
Yeah.
and sure enough, stuck the eye through the hole, and it was a security guard. So I felt like back in the uni dorm days.
Anywho, so Chris, tell us a little bit more about what your day job is and how it works for you within Rugby Canada, and how you managed to keep that within the MLR as well.
Yeah, it's my title shifted last year from my old title was officials development officer, so I looked after referee development. Now I'm responsible for rugby education, so the training and education and development of coaches, referees, and also CMOs. So fair bit of planning, and I was a teacher before, so no stranger to planning out curriculum and over periods of time. Yeah, and then I get to do a lot of on-field work as well with with new referees and with coaches on the field and with teams. And I also get to referee a fair bit myself during the week to stay sharp for the weekend. And and then involved with Major League Rugby. Unfortunately, the season got cut short in a couple of ways. I picked up a bit of an injury, so I missed out on one game, which actually would have been my last ever game in Glendale, Colorado, because of course the Colorado Raptors announced they've withdrawn from Major League Rugby. But next year there are 2 more teams coming to the fold, I believe, Los Angeles and Dallas, and there's talk of another franchise in Miami, which would bring us up to 14 teams. So that's
there was talk of either going down another one or bringing 2 up. So I'm really glad that we've got 2 more coming up. That's really, really positive for MLR. Yeah.
Obviously, it's in its infancy, but George Killebrew, who's the commissioner, he's come over from basketball, so he's no stranger to sport business. And the nice thing was that they retained all the players, they retained us.
Now, referees, realistically, we're not much different to players. We're all a little bit competitive, probably a little bit over-competitive. How have you found it being a Canadian working in the MLR, which is predominantly USA, where they are working very hard but struggling for any sort of governance at the moment, and have been for a couple of years, particularly around officiating, where you're the only professional referee, in inverted commas, and there's plenty of them that want to be over there, and it's just not a possibility.
Yeah, it could be a bit challenging, whatever level you're refereeing in North America, whether you're refereeing in the MLR or trying to work your way up to it. You have to find the time. You have to, you hold down your job and you find the time and you try to get better with each opportunity. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm fortunate. There's one more Canadian actually that has started, Talal Chaudhry, otherwise known as Mo. He's out of Ontario, so a lot of people think we're neighbors. It's actually a 4.5 hour.
Okay, thanks.
4.5 hours is local, isn't it?
Yeah. He's 3 time zones away, but so Mo's doing good work, and we've got an up and comer in Alberta called Robin Kluzniak, who's he hasn't got his first gig with the whistle yet, but he's been on the line a few times, and I'm sure it won't be long. And so there's 3 of us now, and the interesting thing, we had a conference, a preseason conference, where we got together and did some fitness testing and all that, and we met a few of the coaches, which was we found that quite valuable. But one of the selection, I guess, board members, Jeremy Turner, who's also involved with one of the ownership group, said something very interesting, and he said, the time for borders and geographic restrictions is done in North American rugby, and that's the state of unfortunately USA Rugby being in Chapter 11, and Rugby Canada is still financials are a struggle at the moment with the current situation. So I mean, this was pre-COVID, so now more than ever, I think we need to work together, and with platforms like Zoom and MS Teams and all that, we can remove a lot of those borders, and we can reserve the travel for game time. So I think the way everything's set up is if you're willing and if there's talent, there could be opportunities. Yeah, it is a challenge, but like anything, I mean, it's same when you're coming through the divisions in the RFU. I was in England 2010 through 2012, and it's hard work when you're having to hold down a job and go through the divisions and travel a lot on the train from ground to ground.
So just remind us, whereabout were you when you refereed in England?
I was based actually very, very close to Twickenham. I was.
Oh no! That's it. He's London Society. Turn him off.
I love a London referee. God.
I had a connection with a guy called Michael Tutty, who's I believe he's.
Mate, everybody here
Everyone knows
works
Tutty.
with Tutty. everybody here, apart from Lawrence, but the rest of us all know Tutty. We've worked with him before. So let's do a little bit of a hug, because we know Tutty likes hugs. Let's do some love and hugs for Tutty. Love and hugs for Tutty. Tom, love and hugs for Tutty.
That's about more physical contact than I've ever seen.
Tom.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, obviously refereeing within the MLR, there's going to be a lot of travel going about to places. So does that take up like a lot of your time?
Yeah, it is a big time demand, depending on where you're going. I mean, I'm fortunate Seattle and the Seawolves are about a 2-hour drive south, so that's a pretty easy one for me. Just hop over the border. Traveling in the U.S. is not like traveling in Canada. You know, we've got 2 airlines to choose from, so you know it's WestJet or Canada, and that's it. The U.S. has so many options, and they could easily have us go through 4 or 5 different connections and do it for $50. But they want us arriving in one piece. So most of the time, Tom, we would leave on a Friday evening or a Friday late afternoon, and we'd arrive in the evening and for Saturday kickoff, so we get a good night's rest and away we go. But a lot of games now are Sunday evenings because that's a key time slot for TV. So that would be often the same, a late Friday, early Saturday. And it is a part of our weekly planning with our fitness as well as where are we traveling to, how many hours have we got to sit on the plane, and I'm about 6'3" and a bit, so those economy seats. Yeah, you have to plan for that for sure. I remember quite well, traveling on the slow trains because I couldn't afford the express routes. But yeah, time you're traveling to a game, whether you're driving, jumping on a train or a plane, you really have to do it because you love it.
Just very quickly, Chris, from me, how do you think the MLR's coping with competing against, like the NFL, the NBA, hockey, and baseball?
Well, we're quite lucky because we sit in a window. So usually we start in February and we finish in July. So we don't compete with the NFL because, as we know, they own a day of the week, and not just in the US, around the world. So I mean, and Major League Baseball really doesn't kick off until April. Basketball, hockey, Friday, Saturday evenings are the big nights for them, and so we are lucky in that regard. And what's hopefully coming down the chain for all rugby is a more comprehensive platform where we can watch multiple games at the same time and access everything in one place. And I know rugby is talking about that in various competitions around the world, so hopefully we can get on top of that, because like you say, if we try to do the same thing that other sports are doing, we're just not going to survive.
Just wanted to ask, Chris, the Vancouver Sevens Invitational that you run and set up, mate, how many years has that been going now?
Yeah, I think, obviously the Canada Sevens at BC Place has grown as well in size and in scope. When the Invitational started in, I believe it was 2016 or 2015, I was refereeing at the tournament, and I quite enjoyed it. But what I found the tournament was, it was not that dissimilar to Dubai, very, very scaled down version. But tournaments like Dubai, you're never going to compete with the quality of the sides they have there, because it's an iconic,
And they have sun, they have 20, 30, 35 degrees, and you have frost.
Yes, frost and rain. So we'll never compete that. But what I found was we had, at that time, it was building to the Olympics. So we had Team GB women were there, the Welsh women were there separately with a younger team building towards 2020. We had the South African development sides here. So we had all these top quality sides, and it just looked like a scaled down version of one of the bigger tournaments. So what we did was we decided to modify that and reach out to teams like collegiate sides in the US or smaller emerging nations. And what that did was it allowed our emerging players within our provincial structure and our academy players to have a go against people their age, 20 to 25 years of age, and play alongside some of the best under 16s and under 18s players. It created a meaningful competition where in each division, every game was close, every game was tight, and the word spread. And then the referees started to come in. It wasn't necessarily referees who wanted to referee the best teams, but what you're going to get is you're going to get video every game. You're going to get coaching every game. You're going to work with the same team of 4 people through 2 days, and you're going to get better as a team. And that's kind of what we've been able to do, is set up, the VSI is, it's that team culture. Of course, a lot of the boys who aren't doing sideline roles at the big dance on Saturday, Sunday, they get a ticket to the game and get to, hoist a few with their mates and, watch some of the best sevens in the world.
I was lucky enough to get picked up on the series shortly after refereeing in Dubai, and I met some interesting people, and some that are now getting to work in rugby as well. You had Anthony Petrie on your last show, was it?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, you've watched one of our shows then, have you?
Yeah. I've watched a couple of them. So yeah,
and you actually came on as well. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of when I'm
voluntary work, working with the afflicted. That's why you've come on our show.
Yeah, that's what Shannon and I consider talking to our parents sometimes, but it's got to be done.
I'm going to clip that and I'm going to send it to your mum and dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yesterday we were reminded. We rang up my parents, and our parents are on the eastern part of the country, so the different time zone. And my mum will often ring up at 6 or half 6 in the morning, and so we rang her up for a change yesterday, and she said, "It's been 2 weeks." That was her opening statement. So yeah.
Well, Chris, you're probably the most entertaining guest we've had so far, in the fact that you can do something other than blow a whistle. You can play guitar. So we're just going to take a short break now. Make sure that Chris gets another espresso and we get another beer. We'll be back right after this. When you need clear and concise match official communication systems, look no further than the brand new AXIWE AT350.
Radios are always useful, they always help us, especially the AXIWEs, where all 3 of us can be open at any time and we can have open communication.
Available now from refcomsglobal.net. Investing profits into match official development worldwide. Welcome back to the 22 Dropouts. We are a YouTube show and a podcast. Strangely enough, we're available on YouTube and we're available wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to connect with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Just search at 22 Dropouts. Now, tonight we've been joined by Chris Asmus, the development manager from British Columbia. That's on the West Coast, he tells me, in Canada. Because, of course, we all think that they're next to one another, and the guy over in Ontario must be his neighbour. So Chris has been entertaining us with his guitar, with his stories. There's 2 things we haven't asked Chris. First of all, Chris, everybody seems to use me as a scapegoat for their funny stories and their embarrassing moments. The great news is, as yet, we've not worked with each other. So I'm going to ask you for a really embarrassing moment from your refereeing career, and you can't feature me.
Geez, where do I start? But yeah, it's funny. Funny you should mention that. The one of the big ones actually is the first time I met Scott Green, who's the referee who did the last 2 MLR finals, and we were down in Texas, and I was refereeing Argentina against the USA in Houston, and Scott was the technical zone manager, and there was it was first international of the season, and I get nervous before a local game, let alone a big one. So we're about to head onto the field, and everything's good, doing the final comms checks and all that. Match commissioner knocks on the door, does the thing. So we're walking down the tunnel. And then one of the players, and I believe it was Blaine Scully, who's recently retired Eagles winger and captain, and he played for Cardiff Blues as well. He just kind of looks down and goes like, "Chris, something's wrong." And we're literally ready to run out, and for all the anthems and all that. And I had my trainers on, and it was. For those of you who don't know Houston, it's quite humid at the best of times, and the grass was quite wet. So you had that moment of thought going, do I fake my way through the first half wearing my Asics trainers, or do I go back? So sure enough, I sprint back into the change room, and my boots hadn't been cleaned. I threw them in my bag last minute, and they were full of double knots. So I'm gnawing on this thing, and then what the stadium manager comes in and goes, "Oh, is everything okay?" And I said, "You gotta give me a hand with this." So I had a young lady help put my boots on, and then I heard the first national anthem, and then there's that debate: do I go out there for the Star Spangled Banner, or do I stay here? And it was quite good the way the referees lined up, the ARs lined up, and Scott just kind of slid in and stood there and he took the tracksuit jacket off and just looked natural. And by the time I got my boots on, I was able to blow the whistle and start the game. It was fantastic.
Oh mate, he's got you out of the crap there, hasn't he? I hope you bought him a beer after that.
To be fair, mate. Yeah. To be fair, I know exactly how you feel. Well, I don't, but I wore trainers and it started raining. The pitch was really hard, but then it decided to start raining halfway through the second half.
Oh no!
So I'm there wearing trainers. Sniper rifle gets me, as it always does when I'm in a team of three. So you made the right decision putting boots on, mate. I won't lie.
I'll tell you what. I was doing a game last season, and I wear under socks and then calf supports, which are black, and now his socks are black. And I managed to get to a couple of minutes before kickoff, took my trainers off, put my boots on, and was just walking down the tunnel to get the team out when I realised I had no socks on. I just had black calf supports on. And I ran all the way back into the change room, and I made the teams wait. So anyway, one of the best parts allegedly of our show is the rumour mill. I'm not allowed to do a funny voice because everybody takes the mickey out of me if I do. A bit. Yeah, absolutely. So we always put the guest on the spot, and we always start with them. Now you've got a lot to live up to now, Chris, because last week Anthony, who you mentioned earlier, was on the show. And he came up with a corker. It could potentially be true, but the fact that Australia Rugby can't afford Eddie Jones probably mean, and they can't even afford to pay the cleaners at the moment or buy toilet roll. So it probably means that rumour will not come true, and that Eddie Jones will not leave England and go to Australia. So how can you top that in a... We don't expect the rumours to come true, but we do expect them to be somewhere this side of fantasy. So what have you got? What have you heard? And what could possibly happen in the world of rugby that nobody else other than Chris knows about? Chris, it's over to you.
Recently, we saw that election for the chairmanship of World Rugby, and Gus Pichot, who was heavily favoured in a lot of the emerging nations and in the Americas, obviously lost out to the incumbent Sir Bill Beaumont. And one of the things I've heard is that potentially the New Zealand Rugby Union and a couple of the South American unions have indicated they may withdraw from World Rugby.
Wow.
An alternative union. I don't know if they'll go play rugby league, but yeah, it is something that I heard mentioned. Don't know enough about it to offer an informed opinion, but yeah, it's.
We don't want informed opinions. We just want rumours. And when you watch this show, you'll see there's a little screen that says 100% of these rumours may or may not be true.
To be fair, that's a pretty juicy rumour.
That's a pretty juicy rumour. And the world of rugby, just remember, you heard it here first.
That's interesting though, because what does that mean in terms of referees? And what does that mean in terms of their World Rugby funding? And there's a lot of questions.
What funding?
Well, New Zealand.
When
New
was
Zealand.
last time you had a paycheck from World Rugby?
It's a rumour, remember. It's not fact. It's rumour, Chris.
We're going to go over to Lawrence over in Canada for his
Lawrence in
contribution to
Canada?
Human Reality. Lawrence in
Lawrence
Canada?
moved.
Bloody hell.
Lawrence has moved.
There it goes. Blooper, edit, copy, paste.
Hey, listen, I'm not cutting that
You
out.
lose.
I'm not cutting that out. Yeah, Chris, did you just do
Bottle,
the big thing
bottle,
for Family
get the bottle
Fortune?
out.
I was just a...
Lawrence.
Keep up, Africa. I'm not doing this for fun. Say the words.
You can't get it.
Lawrence, say the words.
There you
Thank
go.
you. God, that's like pulling teeth. Anyway, Lawrence in Kenya. Look, it sounds the same. Canada, Kenya. Come on, Lawrence. Dig me out of the shit, will you, lad, and come up with a really good rumour.
Okay, so there's a rumor going around that rugby could be blocked from Olympics. This is after accusations of discriminations and homophobia, which were made against Fiji Rugby Union Chief Francis Kin, who is also a convicted killer at the World Rugby elections, which was vying a seat for the World Rugby Executive. So the Pacific Welfare CEO, Dan Leo, has called for an investigation by World Rugby, of which he said he could ask Olympic Committee to suspend rugby from the Olympics if action is not taken, of which now Francis Kin actually sort of breached the International Olympics Committee Code of Ethics.
There's been a little bit of a spat on Twitter between him and Mike Friday. Obviously, Mike Friday is heavily involved in sevens over in the States, as you know. And whilst he may well have a point, and one of the things I read was that he's doing this as a precursor to get people to sit up and take notice, in the hope that the Olympic Commission will say, right, we want an official investigation to make sure that the sport and the governance is fit and proper, as they call it, to run the sport, which means that they would have to put their house in order before being involved in the next Olympics. It's a tricky, for me, that's a really, really tricky situation. I can see where he's coming from. I can see that the point he's trying to make, but that's a big gamble, isn't it? To come out and say, I'm reporting you to the Olympics. Chris, what's your thoughts on that? You've got to unmute your screen first. Sorry, I just thought I'd catch you out there, mate.
Yeah, I did hear of the allegations involving the Fijian delegate, but yeah, I'm quite shocked that it's gone that far. But it does make sense because the IOC obviously had to do some work reconciling another nation involved in the Olympics in the past around discrimination, homophobia, and the like. So it's a bit unfortunate because in so many ways rugby is a trailblazer in that area, and we've worked really hard to make our sport inclusive. But a massive blow it would be if the Olympic status would be in jeopardy.
Chin strap, what have you got tonight?
So obviously, in South Africa, they obviously they're in lockdown. They're participants in the Super Rugby League, as well as Australia and New Zealand, who have coped with the situation quite well. Now, there are talks, and a key spokesman of this is the Brumbies coach, Dan McKellar, saying that they could cut out South Africa and Argentina from the Super Rugby League and include Japan instead. Mainly all to do with funding, to be honest. Obviously, we've seen that South African players have been given this 21 days to go out and seek new contracts in Europe and in different countries just to try and get less money in South Africa. So that could leave South Africa up what's it creek without a paddle, really.
No, I'm going to throw something out here. Because last week we talked about, sorry, Chinstrap, last week we talked about resetting rugby and what would happen if we could press Control-Alt-Delete at the end of all this and have something new. With that in mind and everything else and COVID and all that sort of stuff in mind, who seriously believes having a league that runs from Argentina all the way around the Southern Hemisphere to New Zealand is a good idea? So that'll be nobody then. Thank you, boys.
You know, it gives Argentina the chance to be involved in one of the biggest leagues in the world.
Okay. No, I agree with you. Take that away, though. Argentina are always going to be in this.
It's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take Argentina and say they're always going to be within that group. But instead of running it Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, what about, as has been muted in the past, we run it in time slots around the world? Because time goes that way, not that way. So Argentina would be within Canada, USA, and maybe others over there. Japan would fall into New Zealand and Australia, and South Africa would fall within a couple of hours of us. So in terms of just purely time zone and travelling, doesn't that make sense?
Well, there is talk sort of in this rumour. So obviously we'd have the sort of Tamsin League, which would be New Zealand and Australia with Japan thrown in for good measure. But there's also talks of 2021 there being an inter-South Africa Super Rugby Conference tournament with the Cheetahs and the Kings thrown in from Argentina, which makes more sense time zone wise and which I think is a good idea. But you know, it doesn't leave the teams in South Africa and Argentina a great scope, and it doesn't leave them with lots of competition like the Super Rugby League does.
So, Chris, how would you guys feel if a couple of top Argentinian teams suddenly joined the MLR, had sort of the America's Cup? How would that sort of fit with you?
Well, it's at the moment it's interesting because we have quite a few Argentinian, Uruguayan, Chilean players in the various MLR franchises. You know, the Toronto Arrows based in Canada, you know, they're key members of their back three, you know, Uruguayan. But this year they recently started, and unfortunately didn't go very far, but they had a Superliga Americana competition that was designed to be...
Hey up, Chinstrap's gone for another wee-wee. If you go for a wee-wee, we talk about you. So let's talk about his shit beard. Okay, we've done that. Back to Chris.
Well, I'll trust me, Sam would know I'm not one to talk on that subject, but yeah, so there's a 17 competition that started up in South America. They are, I hear the plan is to align long term with MLR and then have some joint competition for the top sides in each. But you know, people don't realize even though we're on the same you know, more or less the same time zone as one of the South American cities, the distance is incredible between here and you know, I've traveled to Montevideo and Buenos Aires and Santiago del Chile before, and you know, you're looking at a 20-hour day of travel. So it baffles me how, you know, the Jaguares are able to sustain their travel, but and I know they manage it. They take it in, you know, 3 to 5 week tours, but you know, it's a tough one because South America needs high performance involvement somewhere. But whether you get that in South Africa or whether you get that in you know, joining up with the, you know, New Zealand and Australia, I don't know. But you know, for us, it's obviously really good to have Argentina involved. The America's Rugby Championship started in 2015, and you know, having Argentina, the Argentinian 15 in there has been really, really good for our development because it gets us, you know, even though it's not their top side, you know, more opportunities to get reps against quality players, and they've got so many, and it's not just Argentina. You know, that there are Colombians playing in top level rugby in Europe now, which is fantastic. Yeah. So the solution is not an easy one, but I do enjoy watching Super Rugby, and you know, I don't see it.
You're the only person who does.
Yeah, well, I think all the different competitions offer their own, and in refereeing, I think we need to challenge ourselves to watch all kinds of different rugby. But yeah, it's a tough one, and what is I heard this conversation about global games before, but how much of the responsibility of club competitions and professional sides is the clubs themselves, and how much of it is falls onto the shoulders of the unions and World Rugby, because of course not every competition can be as successful and as logical as what the Six Nations has become.
No, absolutely. I mean, personally, I think, and I take your point entirely about travel. The difference between traveling north-south across North and South America is you stay on the same time zone, so therefore your jet lag is reduced or non-existent. Traveling literally halfway around the world is got to be difficult to manage. I would love to see a bulk of money being put into Rugby Americas, let's put it that way, so that Canada, USA, Mexico, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, all these places can develop at least, in the smaller nations, at least one professional team within their home nation, rather than Argentinians playing in Africa or Argentinians playing in Europe. So try and keep that talent within their country, which helps their international team because they can train more often and things like that. I would love to see a chunk of money. So we've got MLR1 maybe and MLR2. And we've got two, almost like Premiership and Championship. It's there, and there is promotion, and there is relegation, and there's funding there to help. And that funding may need to be there for 10 years. But over that time, they've got to be encouraged and assisted with maintaining their own finances, developing their own sponsorship, TV rights and things like that to build them up. And you will have, we talk about USA as the sleeping giant. We've said it on this show for the last month, mainly because we've only been going for a month, but there you go. And if it ever got to be done properly in the States, rugby would be a huge explosion. And I was reading an article on LinkedIn from Goff a couple of days ago where, thanks very much World Rugby for sending in more and more consultants to tell us to do more and more of the same, or you need to do this and you need to do that. It's not helping to achieve it. Just telling us we need to do something doesn't help us to achieve it. And I think the one thing that does help to achieve absolute success and a huge explosion of rugby in the States, the one thing that's going to help is a huge impact in money. And it's got to be money that's focused, that's driven, and that's got people behind it who are not coming out with ideas alone, but coming out with ideas and then driving them forward. Sam, what you were talking about tonight, something about the Lions.
Yeah, so basically, obviously, the Lions 2021, trip to South Africa could be in jeopardy. For the eight match trip would earn them like £30 million, right? But with the home nations, England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, all basically sweating out whether they can play their autumn test matches, plus the matches they've missed on for the Six Nations, due to the pandemic. If these games don't go ahead, they look like there could be like something like 80 million in the black hole. All the home nations, and that's including England, are saying that basically they would have to reschedule the home test for 2021 because that would be the top priority. So just to actually get funds back in, into the pot. A little bit of a twist on that then. So let's say that the Lions didn't actually go ahead, right, as in 2021, and it gets postponed and moved to 2022, which is, there is a conversation going on about that. That brings up another kind of twist, right? Because Gatland, who's coach of the Lions again for his third time, wouldn't be able to coach them because he's contractual obligations with the Chiefs. So there's names being touted for who would actually be coaching the Lions. So there's Joe Smith, Eddie Jones.
No, mate, he's going to Australia. He can't do the Lions.
You'll love the next one. Stuart Lancaster.
Get in the bin.
Gregor
What was that, mate?
Get in the bin.
Gregor Townsend, Tooney. Leo Cullen.
Who?
Leo Cullen.
No, who?
Exactly. All right. And Mark McCall. So there's quite a few.
Mark McCall might be a good show, but I can't see it. Unfortunately, I've got a couple of things, but about Women's Six Nations scheduling and things like that. But that might keep and I can give you a little bit more of an insight next week. We're running out of time tonight, but thank you very much to everybody on the 22 tonight. And our honorary member, Chris, say good night, Chris.
Good night, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, well done. There's a bit of a time delay, but don't worry. Now, many of you will know if you actually watch the show, which probably about 3 people and his dog, that we are big exponents of the Doddy Weir Foundation. You may have seen on Friday night the quiz that they had with Alex Payne. Now, there is quizzes every Friday throughout May with people like Alex Payne and Big Jim Hamilton on their YouTube channel. All you got to do is head to my name, then the figure 5, doddy.co.uk. Have a check out of their website, have a check out of their social media channels as well. And for the price of less than a pint of beer, you can enjoy a fabulous night of rugby trivia and rugby quizzes. It'll be raising a huge amount of money and awareness for the Doddy Weir Foundation and for motor neuron disease. So there is a link at the end of this show, and there will be a voiceover at the end for those who are just listening. But please, please, please do spare a moment and go to the Doddy Weir Foundation. If you're unsure, just Google Doddy Weir Foundation. You can find all the details there. We hope that you'll support them. We actually hope that you'll support us. Never mind the Doddy Weir Foundation. Just watch our show, please. Listen to our podcast. Tune in to us on YouTube. We're here every week. Sometimes we get it out on a Wednesday. Sometimes we're just a bit crap and we get it out on a Friday. Tune into us on the podcasts, Acast, and Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to download, catch up with all our back catalogue. And if you want to listen to and watch some of the outtakes, then head to our YouTube channel when you see all the crap that we don't manage to get out on air as well. Once again, thank you very much from me. Thank you very much from my 22. From all of us tonight, it's a very good night to you. Please stay safe, stay indoors, stay away from each other, and stay well. Good night, everybody.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Keep up to date with all the latest developments, events and news from the Doddy Weir Foundation by going to www.myname5doddy.co.uk. That's myname5doddy.co.uk.